Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptop Scene, the host of the Vox and Hops podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. Hope you guys had a glorious weekend. I most certainly did. This Vox and Hops episode is brought to you by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal is Montreal's premier metal promoter. When there isn't a global pandemic, they normally put on a bunch of sick metal shows here in Montreal, but not only that, they also put on one of North America's best metal festivals, and trust me when I say this because it's the absolute truth. I have played just about every metal festival out there. I've played Wacken, I've played Summer Breeze, I've played Brutal Assault, I've played Hellfest, and Heavy Montreal is up there with the best of them. I'm super stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox and Hops podcast. On today's episode, I'm very stoked to be with an iconic metal musician that now is involved in craft beer, so he is just an absolute perfect Vox and Hops guest. This is Vox and Hops episode number 220 with Peter Iwers of Odd Island Brewing, who used to play in a little band called In Flames.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I'm with Peter Iwers of Odd Island Brewing. He used to play in a little band called In Flames. I am very stoked to be with you because, first off, you are a perfect Vox and Hops guest because you are super metal as fuck. But not only that, you are also brewing craft beer. So it's just too perfect. I had to have a chat with you. Let's start with something super simple. How have you been coping with 2020?
2020, I don't know. I've been fighting the government, trying to make a bunch of rules become easier for us small business owners to cope with, and at the same time just trying to ride with it and do the best of it, kind of, a little bit in between of those things.
Very interesting. What is the government holding you back on? I know that the liquor laws, alcohol laws in Sweden are extremely strict. So does it have something to do with that?
Yeah, well, both yes and no. I mean, I run a restaurant as well, and that has been a lot of issues because they're basically shutting us down partly. So after 10 o'clock in the evening, we're not allowed to stay open anymore and serve alcohol. And they have used the alcohol law because they cannot use the regular law just to close anybody down. So they need to use the alcohol law, saying that after a while people will get drunk. That will therefore we have to close all the bars, and then you can open up after half an hour again, but with no alcohol or low ABV alcohol, which is kind of stupid. It will only increase the after hours parties and the home parties and stuff like that. But so I've been discussing a lot of that, and as far as the brewery goes, we're just trying to release more beer. As like you said, it is very strict in Sweden. We have the monopoly. We have one place where we can sell our high ABV beers, of course, Systembolaget, and there's only a few amount of stores for a brewer of our size that we're able to get out to. So it's better for us to release more beers rather than what our normal plan is, just to have like few beers, because we don't want to cannibalize ourselves. Now it's the opposite. More beers will be more sales and more income.
Interesting. So you're doing smaller batches, just more styles, getting more out on the market.
Yeah, not necessarily smaller batches, but maybe one-offs. We do same batches and then we release it, and then we see if it goes well. We might do it another time, but But then also there's like 4 to 5 months waiting period basically before you actually get your beer out into the market, into Systembolaget, where regular people can buy it home. So we have to plan quite ahead. So we're planning for quite a few releases next year, and then we've had some this year.
That's awesome. That's very interesting. But people can come to the brewery and pick up some brews if they are low ABV. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Up until 3.5% they can buy. And they can come to our brewery because we have a tasting license. So they can come and have like a tasting evening. And we do have a tasting pub as well, where people can come and have some tastes and some beverages, and also invite the local food trucks to come there. So we try to make it like a full evening. But that's closed right now as well due to the pandemic.
Yeah, Montreal has just been totally devastated. Just horrible, horrible for
Yeah.
all anyone in the restaurant industry or craft beer industry are suffering greatly right now. And I keep telling everyone, support local products, people. If you want them to be around after this pandemic, you have to support the things you love.
Yeah,
Just
that's
like
how it is.
craft beer. Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends and talking about their lives, music, and craft beer. What are you drinking on your side there, Peter, tonight?
I'm drinking glögg from a cup, which is it's called glue wine in English, I think. Glögg is the Swedish version. It's basically aged wine with sugar and potato and stuff like that. You can make it. Mine is bought. It's sweet wine that you heat up. It's really, really nice when it's cold, and it's very traditional drink in Sweden around Christmas. And today, since it's like the first of Advent, we always drink a lot of glue wine. So as much as I like my beers, today is glögg time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. For myself, I am going to be drinking a very special brew. This is actually a collab brew that I did with OverHop Canada, who I love, love, love to death. They are originally based out of Brazil, but they have relocated here in Canada, here in Montreal specifically. And this is the Vox&OVERHOPS. This is the double dry hopped New England IPA that was hopped with Citra, Enigma, and Vic Secret hops. I'm super stoked with this. Clocks in at 7%.
That's an amazing label, I gotta say. Amazing.
Yeah, I love it. And it was just one of those super organic
Yeah.
conversations that just happened. I sent them some elements that I have that I use for my Zooms. And then like a few days later, they just sent this back. So I was like, yes, that works. And I love when collabs happen like that. It's just super easy. I'm going to crack this open, pour it out. But I want to hear about your experience with beer, your relationship with beer. Do you remember the first beer that you ever drank?
Oof. Well, I guess the first beer I drank was probably, I don't remember the actual brand, but it was probably something very easy to get a hold of in Gothenburg. Probably Folköl, which is a low ABV beer. We drank that a lot, and that was something that everybody could get basically from the time we were 16, 17. I want to say, some brand, but I'm pretty sure it was one of these, like, we had this one beer in Sweden that we all drank called Crocodile. It was supposed to be like Australian brew. But I remember like a zillion of years later when I first came to Australia and I asked, what about this beer called Crocodile? Nobody's ever heard about it. It was a Swedish invention, bullshit, a Swedish beer.
It worked.
It was probably that, that's probably what I drank, my first beer.
Amazing. Cheers. Thank you for taking some time to have a chat with me. This
Thanks
pours
for having
out
me.
beautifully hazy, super tropical nose.
New England IPAs, it's my favorite beers all time.
I'd love to share one of these with you. Super juicy. You got the, mango, pineapple going on. And then it's sweet, but it's not sweet at the end. And I love that about this beer because a lot of these New Englands that are coming out are just far too sweet. So this one has more of like a dank finish. Love it. Love it. Love the people. OverHop Canada. I have to say it again. I love it. How about that first craft beer? What would be that first craft beer that really blew your mind, that opened you up to the whole rabbit hole of what's going on in your life now?
It's a kind of a long answer to that one because my first craft beer was on tour. I was in America. I absolutely remember the first one that I enjoyed. But it was like this. We were on tour with In Flames, and for each night we got a bunch of different beers, different crates, and we were like 20, 22, something like that, and we only wanted to get drunk. So we asked for Budweiser because we've seen Budweiser on TV. That's what you're supposed to drink when you're on tour in America when you're 22. So we got like 8 or 9 crates of Budweiser each night, Bud Light. There was always this one case of some local or something very hoppy, we flowery, as we said then, very perfumey, and we always threw that away. Always, because it's horrible, we thought, it was like, we just want to chug this stuff, right? But fast forward a few years, this case kept coming. Everybody wanted us to try the local beers because in America they were years ahead of the Swedish craft beer scene, and so eventually we just started smelling and trying and finding some stuff that was actually pretty good, and then there was this one beer that actually landed it for I guess most of us in the band. It was Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale, And that's the beer that got me into craft beer. That's the beer that got Daniel into craft beer. And Daniel, who was the drummer for In Flames, is the guy who brews all of our beer together with another guy. And the first beer that Daniel ever brewed is called Citrovan. And it was his version of a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, right? So,
Really?
Yeah. So Citrovan is the first beer, and it's coming up on 4 years now on the market. And it's Citra, and Nelson Sauvin, those two hops in. So we just figured Citrovan. And it's funny because in Sweden it's a beer that nobody can ever pronounce, and so it's always a lot of Citroens and Citron, a lot of different names for it. But once you figure out what it is, you'll never forget it. But yeah, so that was my first craft beer.
Yeah, that's definitely on my list of one of the
early. It's still one of the favorites, yeah.
Absolutely, and it was for myself as well as when I was on tour. I remember where I was. I remember playing the Masquerade in Atlanta and picking up that 6-pack of Sierra Nevada. I remember it very clearly. So interesting. Let's talk a little bit about metal. I've spoken to a lot of people from the Swedish scene, such as Michael from Dark Tranquility, Martin and Matthias from Band Bond. So I know that the Swedish scene is just so tight and close, and you guys were basically a family growing up in a very healthy sense of competition, helping each other grow the scene. Talk to me about when you were growing up, how that experience was for you.
Well, it was exactly like that. We're a big family. Everybody just helping each other out. Never any rivalry. I remember it. So if somebody had a gig, everybody else was invited to, or not everybody else, obviously, but a few other people were invited to open up. If you weren't in the band, like I wasn't in that type of scene right then, I was invited to work the show, to do something. Everybody was helping out. And then the first band that actually made it, big was At the Gates. And as they played, I know they took a lot of bands, helped them out by letting them support them and stuff like that. And that has never changed. And, this like 25 or something years later, starting a brewery in Gothenburg is exactly the same mentality. Because you have all these different breweries that has been before. There's a lot of more experience than what we did, because we basically jumped in cold. We had no idea what we were going to do. Just trying to Daniel brew beer and I tried to sell it. And but we got so much good help. It's exactly like it was back in the day when we were all young musicians and helping each other out. No rivalry, just people showing you how to play that riff or brew that beer, and it's the same. Fantastic mentality, and I love it to this day. And we obviously take that with us when we meet young musicians and young breweries, or younger breweries than what we are, because we're only a few years in. I think that's the way it should be.
It's amazing, and it's so mature for a scene to have that mentality versus a cutthroat. We're going to outdo you, which I see happening a lot elsewhere. So that's why the Swedish scene is special. In my opinion.
I agree, and this what I've been hearing from other bands in Sweden is that this is very unique for Gothenburg. I'm not sure if that's the case, but a lot of people say that we didn't have that in Stockholm, we didn't have that in the city. But Gothenburg, for me, and I can't speak for the other cities. I'm just saying what people told me. But Gothenburg has been awesome, always.
Let's talk about opening the brewery. Take me down that path. It sort of coincided at the same time that you left In Flames, both of you.
Yeah.
So take me throughout all of that. How hand in hand was that? A lot has changed in your life. You're not out there touring. You've removed the long hair. So talk to me about all that.
Before, Daniel and I, we hung out a lot on the road, and when we got older, I guess both of him and me started getting more interested in working out, not partying as much, not being heavily drunk every night, mainly due to the fact, I guess, because we couldn't handle a hangover anymore, but so being on the road every day, you want to perform well, you want to feel good. So we started working out, taking long walks and stuff like that, and starting discussing stuff that we were started talking about the future, what we were going to do. And he actually mentioned to me that he'd been thinking about leaving the band. And this was early 2015. And I told him that, I had thoughts about it as well, for various reasons. And long story short, he left in end of the last tour of 2015. And he told the band before, and I knew it obviously before everybody else, but he did that. And then he also told me, I was like, I've never had a job. I gotta start something of my own. And I could really relate to that because I had started my restaurant together with Björn, who's still in the band, for the same reason. When all this is over, I wanted something to fall back on, kind of. And I wanted, as a big interest in food and drinks, I wanted a place that I could actually, tailor make, for according to my every demand. So we started 2112 a few years before that, and Daniel wanted to start a brewery. So he started brewing, and he started to do a lot of beers and started taking that on festivals. So when he actually left the band, he was into it, and he knew what he was going to do. He was going to start a brewery. And I told him immediately, it's like, dude, I want to be in this. It's like, yeah, fine. Just give me some time to get connected and to get up and running and everything like that. So, and I waited until the summer of 2016, and I just saw he did some, I took all the beer into 2112 just to test it at customers, obviously. And then I saw that he could probably need help when it came to the marketing side of these things. And I consider myself very interested in that stuff and kind of good on doing it. So I just reached out again. It's like, is it time now? And he said, yeah, now it's time. So I bought in. We invested some stuff. We got bigger tanks and kept on doing it. And then eventually I quit. And then it was 100% the brewery. Just us two. Him brewing, me selling. We both bottling everything by hand, labeling it by hand, and doing everything, driving, basically going back to how it was when we started a band, carrying your own equipment and just doing everything by hand, by yourself, without anybody being, basically just for the love of it. And that's how it started. And then we bought some bigger tanks, and we started talking about, because at this point we were actually sharing a brewery with another local guy, and it came to that point where we had outgrown the brewery unless he moved out, but it was his place. So we told him, it's like, what are your thoughts and plans? And he's like, yeah, well, I kind of want to do this. And we said, yeah, well, we need to move. Well, if you move, then I'm going to quit. He said, okay, so can we take over the warehouse? And he's like, no, I'll only quit if you leave. It's like, okay. we started looking for a new place, and found one eventually, and where we could actually grow. We felt like this is the place to grow big in, and that's about a year and a half ago, and we've outgrown that place now. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's growing kind of fast. Yeah.
Good, and that means that the beers are good. Talk to me about. I know that the Swedish scene, craft beer scene, is just on fire, so popular, so many breweries. How did you guys hash out your space in that market?
We didn't really think of it that way. We did the same way as with the music. We brew beer that we both liked, and we didn't really jump on the whole sour beer style. We didn't jump on any style that was popular at the time. We just brewed beer at our own pace that we thought that we could handle, So we started with the Citrovan, started pushing that out, and once people had started buying that, they asked for a second beer. So we brew the low ABV beer, which we call folk ale, and then we brew a strong rye IPA, and then we brew actually a Berliner Weisse of raspberry and wheat, and those were the four ones that we had for a while. So we you had those four and just did our thing with them. Really didn't think too much about taking space or just basically just try to do our thing. And it helped a lot being who we were, obviously, to jump the line a little bit to get out to customers and get out into the pubs. But you can only, we use this expression, you can only sell a turd once, you got it,
That's right.
it has to be a good tasting turd for
That's
people
right.
to buy
That's
it a
right.
second time.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. People might get drawn to this on the shelf and pick it
yeah.
up, but if the beer inside is no good, they ain't gonna buy it again. That's for sure. I agree with that.
And luckily Daniel is very, very thorough with what he does. So I never had to, as a salesman, I never had to question the flavors or everything. I knew that he was, 100%. Should there be anything, any little detail he didn't like, he would pour everything out. But at that time when we started it, we couldn't really afford to pour anything out. But so he was super, super thorough. Still is, So now we've just been doing our thing all the time. And I guess it's slowly but surely we've been growing. We're still not big. We're still definitely a microbrewery. But we've been growing surely but steadily,
Amazing. It's amazing. I can't wait to get back out there and get my hands on some of those Anna and brews. I'd be so excited for that. Let's talk. I'm from Montreal. I want to talk a little bit about playing Montreal because I've been there and I've seen these In Flames shows in Montreal, and I feel like Montreal has a special relationship with In
For
Flames.
sure. Yeah. It's been, every show in Montreal has been amazing. It's been super loud, and it's almost like coming down to like southern parts of Europe when you come to Montreal, as far as people, how passionate you guys are and how loud you guys are, and keep making the show so intense. Montreal was always one of our favorite places to be and to play in, and we've had some great fun in the city as well. But I guess everybody says that when they talk to somebody from the city, but this is actually true. And we planned of doing a live in Montreal once, but that never happened.
Oh, that would have been
never
amazing.
happened for various reasons. Maybe the guys will do it now, but now I love Montreal. Love the culture, the food, the people, the beer. Everything.
Yeah. But I totally remember seeing you guys at the Medley, which is sadly gone now, and it was just the ambience, the crowd singing. I've seen lots of shows, obviously, but that relationship with In Flames is so special, and I'm super stoked that I get to chat with you.
If I don't remember wrongly, I think the first time we played there was with Iced Earth, Jag Panzer, and I remember that was an insane show because we were supporting Iced Earth, so we were playing in front of their drum kit and stuff like that, and which is how it is. And I just remember it was insane.
Are there times that you miss being on the road?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, miss is kind of a wrong word. I loved being on the road for most of the years that I was with the band, and I missed the good times. I have no regrets as far as leaving, but of course sometimes I really miss just being free and out and playing shows and traveling to new places every day. But I have plans. Maybe this will happen again in the future, but not with In Flames though. But yeah, we'll see. I'm kind of not missing or spending time, thinking about stuff like that. I'm kind of more living where I am now, where I'm actually free to do whatever I can with my own time. I own my own time, as I like to say. I can plan it however I like it, and kind of focusing on enjoying that rather than missing the past.
That's a very wise way to live. That way, you're only going forward.
Try to. It's fun to reminisce, but at the same time, it can take you down a dangerous road as well.
Absolutely. Speaking of reminiscing, Cryptopsy and In Flames have played a few shows together, even though we are completely different. We played Loud Park in Japan together.
Yes.
And we also played on 70,000 tons together, which was just a wild cruise. If anyone has been on 70,000, you know what I'm talking about. It's insane.
It was one of the most weird and cool and awesome experiences ever. I remember playing when I think it was on the way back. I think when it was a little bit more windy and we were playing and the stage was going. It felt like it was rocking. But the one thing that I remember the most, that was like the most surreal thing. When we stopped at Turks and Caicos, we went off, and I remember I walked down the beach, and that was the only time I had the opportunity to call home to my wife and kids. And as I was walking back, I took a long walk, and I walked back towards the boat, and I just hear this loud roar, kind of, and I see this. This is like paradise, you know, the white sand and the turquoise water and you know, blue skies, and then I see like a black cloud on the beach, and as I come closer, it's metalheads, you know, screaming along to Metallica's something, and I was like, wow, this doesn't fit here. As much as I love it, this is, you know, we're intruding, you know. I really remember that was weird.
I always feel bad for the crew members
Yeah, exactly.
of the cruise ship. I wonder if they look forward to having us, or if it's like, oh, I think I'm going to take my vacation that week.
I do think that most metalheads are very humble, and I think that, you know, compared to a lot of other clients that they might have, I'm sure it was pretty cool adventure. Even though people were drunk, I think people were pretty cool still.
Yeah, we are metalheads. We are one. I love it. Let's dance back into craft beer. Have you guys started doing some collab beers with other breweries, or with? Let's talk about those and talk about the relationship, because I see collabs sort of like going out on tour with a band. You know, it's like pairing of two brands, two products that work well together.
We've been doing it a couple of times. Our first was with a big Gothenburg brewery called Bibliotek, which is like a collab of the word beer and library in Swedish. So they make a lot of collabs, a lot of great beers, and they actually started just when we started up. I think our third beer or something was with them, and so we did that. It was a what's it called? It's a type of Weiss beer, if I don't. Yeah, it was. With a Melanie Weiss beer, very interesting flavor, very cool, and they actually redid it afterwards and released it on this Swedish Monopoly for a while, and it was a huge success. Awesome. Daniel and one of their brewers did it. Amazing. That was the first collab we did. Then we've done a bunch of collabs in our brewery. Different people that we enjoy being with, people that have the same mentality basically, and then whose beers we like. Our two brewers, Daniel and well, they're both called Daniel actually. They went up north to do a collab together with a Swedish brewery called Bryggverket. People, metalheads, they like music, they like beers, they make it very high quality beer, and the plan was for them to come down because we went up, or they went up when there was like a fair up in their city in Umeå. And they were supposed to come down when the big Swedish beer fair in Gothenburg was, but that never happened. So I guess we'll do this next year, hopefully. So we've done a bunch of different ones. And then we also brew a lot of beers for Swedish brewery called Duck Pond Brewing. Nicola is the guy who has it. He's the singer and bass player from Millencolin.
Really? Okay. Yes.
So we brew some of his beers. He gives us a recipe and an ID, and the guys brew it, and he's done a few collabs together with our guys in our brewery as well. So I mean, exactly like I said, it's like going on the road together, but it's also like I would never do a collab with somebody I didn't like, you know. It needs to be
it has to be
good,
totally
good feeling.
Absolutely, because it's your baby. Making a beer is like putting out an album. It's your baby. You wouldn't want to be in a band with somebody you don't like.
Yeah, I don't brew, you know, so I couldn't talk too much about temperatures and, you know, preferences of malts and hops like that. But I do like all this stuff when I can market it, when I can you know, talk to their marketers and learn something, because I'm an amateur. I do this just because I think it's fun, and most other people do it way better. But I think one of my advantages is that I do it differently. I do it because a lot of people go in with the same thinking, the same way of doing it, and then I come from the side kind of doing it as if I were to market a new band or a new song and stuff like that. And I think that's something that can also be interesting for them to learn from me, and mainly me learning from them. But I enjoy that part very much.
It's cool though, because you come with a whole wide array of experience, but it's experience that you can't buy. You can't learn that in school.
No.
It's really, really interesting. How about collabs for bands? You mentioned Millencolin, but have you guys made any collabs for metal bands specifically?
You mean in the past with, you mean the beers now? Yeah. We've done a couple of beers for Hank von Hell from Turbo Negro. We're actually releasing our third beer together with a Swedish band called Lok, L-O-K. Really cool band that were, I guess, before their time, like 25 years ago, they were starting to release their music, and they became huge in Sweden.
Cool.
And they had a reunion last year just to get a feel for it, and the places were packed. And we did 2 beers for them, which sold out in like minutes, like literally
Wow.
minutes. It was insane. So we're doing a new beer for them, like a modern lager, yeah, like a golden ale kind of. Very easy to drink beer, but something that they really have wanted, because the first 2 beers we did was a pale ale and then a sour beer.
Oh, cool.
Which was great. People loved it, but especially the singer is a huge lager or regular beer, whatever kind of. So we made a golden ale, and it's going to be released in a few days. And yeah, it's fun to do those things. A lot of times I think that the audience don't really know who we are, so it's something for us to gain from, and also our audience, to kind of show the metal or the beer world that this is how we do it in the metal world. We do quality collabs together, music and beer wise and all that stuff.
Now you guys are definitely a metal brewery because of your experience, your life experience. You guys don't really push that in the branding or in the experience. I haven't been to your tap room, sadly, but I would love to, the tasting room. But is there music playing? Is it metal music? Because we go to True. We go to True in Denver, and is a metal experience. So is Odd Island Brewing a metal experience like that?
It is definitely. I mean, I have this theory, because everybody likes metal. Whether you say you don't, everybody likes metal to some extent. Everybody loves AC/DC or Iron Maiden. It shows when they play in town. The whole city's, kind of. So I wouldn't say that we play a lot of In Flames or a lot of Dimmu Borgir or a lot of Cryptopsy stuff like that. We kind of go more into the Van Halen stuff and maybe a little bit of Motorhead and AC/DC and stuff like that. But yeah, it's definitely rock orientated. There can be other stuff as well. I mean, we had a Johnny Cash nights with live band. That was fun. But I realized after playing like the 4th Johnny Cash song in a row that I had to switch it up a little bit, because we became, as much as I love Johnny Cash, it became kind of depressing, right? Not a lot of partying going on there. So I had to switch it up with a lot of different types of music. But yeah, we kind of tend to do the music as a soundtrack to the evening, and that's very important.
Very cool. What about the soundtrack while you guys are brewing? Do you guys listen to music while you brew?
Yeah, a lot of they do. Yeah, because I have my office upstairs on a little. Okay. So I have a balcony all over the brewing, and I hear what they listen to. There's a lot of weird stuff going on that you probably, a lot of Swedish weird stuff. Because I mean, you can only listen to same types of music so long until you go crazy. So I come in sometimes and it's like, this is insane. This type of music.
If you could reach out and do a collab with any brewery in the world, someone that you look up to, that you would love to work with, who would that be?
There's 2 breweries that I really enjoy. Amundsen and Wylam. 2 great breweries. I especially love both their New England IPAs that they do, and I think they're amazing. I love both breweries' can art. I think it's just looking kind of like the one you showed me now. It's just I mean,
give me another reason to show it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like an album cover, right? You look at the small details, and then when it contains something delicious to drink as well, it's fantastic. And I'd love to collab with those 2. But I mean, there's so many. We've been when we started touring, there was a lot of breweries in America that we passed on by, and especially Daniel, I know he has a lot of favorites that he could. We actually had a plan to do one of these, put our families into 2 RVs and just travel the whole North America and do collabs and vacation at the same time. But it hasn't happened yet, but hopefully it can in the future.
That's amazing. I love that. Let's wrap this up with a classic wrap-up question. It probably never happens to you because you're very in control, and you mentioned that you hate when it happens to you, which is why you guys started taking care of yourselves. Back when you were in Flames, and you started working out, but every once in a while it happens to everyone. What is your hangover cure?
Ooh, I actually had that the other day. I think my worst one in many years was I couldn't even get out of bed.
Wow.
But I guess if I have to choose one that I really enjoy is like just laying on the couch and eating chips, watching movies, half sleeping.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Drinking some really, really cold, sparkling beverages of some sort. On tour, has it happened that I had the hair of the dog? Many times. Wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, that's how you do it on the road. I mean, I'm not no saint. I still drink tons of beer and stuff like that. I just try to take a little bit better care of myself these days than what I did 20 years ago.
Yeah, we have to, because it hurts so much more.
Yeah. It does. Sucks. I have to really plan. If I go out drinking, I have to make sure that the next day is free. And preferably the next day after that as also. And that's
linger.
kind of sucks because I love going out drinking beers with my friends. You know.
Me too. Peter, thank you so much for taking the time, hanging out with me, talking about your life, music, and craft beer. I had a great time, and I really appreciate it. Cheers.
Cheers, buddy.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. I had a blast having a chat with Peter. I have seen In Flames here in Montreal countless times, just iconic performances. And Montreal, as I mentioned, absolutely loves In Flames. I can't wait till I'm back over in Sweden so that I can get my hands on some of these odd island brews. They look amazing. I can't wait to come to the tap room to have the full experience. I know that is exactly where I'm heading when I wake up on tour next time I'm over there. If you enjoyed this Vox&Hops episode, you should absolutely subscribe to it on the podcast platform of your choice. But not only that, you should take the time to rate it and write a review, because if you do that, more people just like yourself will be able to discover the Vox&Hops podcast. Vox&Hops is brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I have one more episode coming at you this Friday, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.